What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. If you have been struggling to lose fat and it's just not working no matter what you do, watch this whole video, don't skip around, because I'm gonna go through the top 6 most important things you need to do in order to lose fat successfully. And these 6 things are in order of importance. It's not random 6 things, it is the top 6 in the order of importance. And at the end, I'm gonna go over something else, something that I struggled with the most when I was really struggling to lose fat as well. All right, let's get into the video.
Well, I'm here, sign up for my email list. This is about to choke me out. Get on my email list so I can contact you. Do it!
All right, done with training, got my ass kicked, we're gonna head home. But really quick, I know I was getting choked out when I said it. Seriously, sign up for my email list just in case my accounts get hacked or taken down for any reason, which has been happening a lot lately. Sign up so I can get in contact with you, all right? Let's go. All right, we're back at the office, and again, we're going over the top 6 most important things you need for sustainable fat loss over the long term, and not only just the top 6, but also in the order of most to least important. Now, just because I say number 6 is the least important does not mean it's not important. It's actually very important, but relative to the others, this is the order that I've put it in. Now, if at the end of this video, you're like, I don't agree with that order, that's cool. Tell me in the comments what you think the right order of this should be and why. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and sort of predict what people are gonna say and tell you why I've put it in this order once it's all said and done. All right, so first and foremost, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you should know what number 1 is gonna be. It rhymes with Mallory Schmeficit, it's calorie deficit. The only way to lose fat is to be in a calorie deficit. It doesn't matter if you do keto, doesn't matter if you do Weight Watchers, doesn't matter if it fits your macros, doesn't matter if you do intuitive eating, doesn't fucking matter. The only way that you'll be able to lose fat, period, is through being in a calorie deficit. Keeping in mind, a calorie deficit doesn't mean starving yourself. It doesn't mean eating 200 calories a day. It doesn't mean you need to do 72-hour fasts. All it means is you need to eat a little bit less than your body needs so that you can lose weight. And generally speaking, if you have too big of a calorie deficit, then you're not gonna be able to sustain it. So while you might lose fat very, very quickly early on, it's gonna be hard to sustain it over the long term. The goal of sustainable fat loss is not to eat as little as possible so you can lose weight as quickly as possible. It's to eat as much as possible so you can lose weight as sustainably as possible. Now, very quickly, how do you know how many calories you should eat? I'm gonna give you a very quick, very easy to understand calculation to figure out how many calories you need to be in a calorie deficit. This is just a starting point. This is not a one size fits all. This is not definitive. You can absolutely change things as you go along. But generally speaking, what I want you to do is I want you to take your goal body weight, and I'll talk about that in a second. Take your goal or target body weight, and you're gonna multiply it by 12. Okay, so let's just say, actually, I need to clarify, when I say take your goal body weight, it's not in kilograms, it's not in stone, it's in pounds specifically. So if you do work in kilograms, you do work in stone, just recalculate it over to pounds, and then you'll be good to go. So take your goal body weight in pounds, multiply it by 12, and that is generally how many calories you should be eating on a daily basis in order to be in a calorie deficit. So for example, if your goal body weight is 150 pounds, you would multiply 150 by 12, and that works out to about 1,800 calories on a daily basis. That should put you in a calorie deficit. Now, let's say you've tried eating 1,800 calories before, and that's just too little for you. Well, what you could do is you could try going up to 2,000 calories and see if that works. The thing about this is, and the thing about fat loss overall, is everyone just wants like the best macros, the best calories, they want the best workout program, just give it to me right now. And what any coach worth their salt will tell you is, a lot of it is just trial and error. You try a certain number, you see how you feel, you see how the progress is being made. If you're too hungry, cool, try increasing your calories. Or if you're too hungry, maybe try changing the composition of your foods to fill you up more on those calories. If you feel good but you're not losing weight, maybe you need to decrease the amount of calories you're eating. Or maybe you need to do a better job of tracking how many calories you're eating because maybe you're missing some, right? So when I give you this goal body weight by 12, it's not necessarily definitive. It's not the only number you'll ever need. This is a very good starting point. Now, in terms of goal body weight, a lot of people get really hung up on that. They hear like, well, what if I don't have a goal weight? Well, listen, you don't need to hit this number in order to achieve your goal. You don't need to, let's just say, again, for sake of example, your goal body weight is 150 pounds. You don't have to be 150 pounds in order to finally be happy with your life and happy with your body. If you're 220 pounds and you use a goal weight of 150, but then you get to 175 and you're like, you know what? I feel really good. I'm happy. I'm healthy. My blood work is good. Blood pressure is good. Cholesterol is good. I feel fine. Cool. Stop. The reason I say goal weight is because it's generally a good estimate of something called LBM, your lean body mass. All right. And lean body mass is a really good tool to use to figure out how many calories you should be eating. But if I got up here and said, yeah, so you're gonna calculate your lean body mass, 98% of you would be like, fuck this, I'm not doing that, because it can be a little bit confusing. So I use goal or target weight as a good way to generally measure or estimate what your lean body mass would be. So you take that, multiply it by 12, and you're good to go. A lot of people, when I say this, and they figure out, oh my God, like I could eat 1,800 calories. Well, I never eat that many calories. You're wrong. If you're above 150, I guarantee you're consistently eating more than 1,800 calories. A lot of people are saying, well, I only lose weight when I eat 1,200. No, that's not accurate. Oftentimes people will say, I only lose weight when I starve myself when I eat 1,200. No, what you're doing is you're judging the rate of weight loss incorrectly. You're saying that you only lose weight at a rapid pace if you eat that few calories. But you might be losing weight eating 1,800, it just won't go as fast as you would like. And this is where most people get into big trouble. You can probably eat more than you think you can, it's just the weight loss is going to be slower. So keep in mind, the goal of sustainable weight loss is not to eat as little as possible to lose weight as quickly as possible. It's to eat as much as you can while losing it as sustainably as you can. So if you're feeling like, oh my God, that's way too many calories, I can't eat that many calories, yes, you can. You need to adjust the expectation for how quickly you're going to lose, rather than just saying, oh my God, I'm only losing half a pound or a pound a week on average. That's fucking amazing. That's a great rate of weight loss. Stop looking at Judith from The Office, who said she lost 27 pounds in the last 2 weeks, and be like, I don't give a fuck what Judith is doing. I'm gonna do what I need to do because I've tried this over and over and over again for years. I've yo-yoed back and forth. Clearly it's not working. I'm gonna have a little bit higher calories, doing what Jordan said, what this cool guy on YouTube said. I'm gonna have that many calories and lose weight more sustainably, all right? So, number one is calorie deficit. Moving on to number two. Now, number two, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you probably know what I'm gonna say. Number two is protein. Now, the first thing I'm gonna say about protein is this. I'm gonna tell you how to calculate about how much protein you should be eating on a daily basis. So you're gonna take your goal body weight again. We're gonna use 150 pounds as an example. Again, doing it in pounds, not kilograms or stone or any of that. 150, and you multiply it for a range between 0.7 to 1, okay? So 150 times 0.7 is 105, and 150 times 1 is 150. So that would mean that your range of protein on a day-to-day basis would be between 105 grams to 150 grams. Can you go over 150 grams? Sure, this is just the general range and a range of minimums, okay? You're more than welcome to go over 150. You don't need to, but you're welcome to. Should you go under 105? Probably not, especially not on a consistent basis. I'd like you to be between 105 to 150. This is gonna be the most important in terms of maintaining and building muscle mass and for keeping you full and also for having the best effect on your metabolism over the long term. So that's number one. The second common question I get here is, let's say that you're at your calorie intake for the day. Let's say you're at about 1,800 calories, or we'll call it 1,750, right? You're at 1,750 out of an 1,800 limit for the day, and you've only gotten 85 grams of protein in that day. Should you go over your calories in order to hit your protein? It's a very common question. Mitch is in the background shaking his head. He's right, the answer is no. You should not go over your calories to hit your protein. Why? Calories are the most important. You don't hit priority number 2 and surpass priority number 1. You wanna make sure this is the one thing that you hit as consistently as possible. So, on the other hand, let's say that you're under your calories and over your protein. Is that okay? Yeah, that's totally fine. The calorie number, that's your limit. That's what I don't want you to go above on a consistent basis. If you go over it randomly and occasionally, it's fine. It's not gonna derail your progress. But generally, 80% of the time, don't go over that number. The protein, this is the minimum. You're welcome to go over the number, just try not to go under the number. And when all is said and done, calories are more important than protein, especially when it comes to weight loss. Now, the reason why protein is number 2 is because if you don't keep your protein high enough, it's going to be significantly more difficult to maintain in order to build muscle. And you can actually build muscle while you're in a calorie deficit. It's very difficult, but you can do it, even though it's very marginal amounts, especially if you've been training for a long time and if you're not taking anabolic steroids. But keeping your protein high during a fat loss phase while you're in a calorie deficit is essential for maintaining your muscle mass, which is unbelievably important, never mind just for sustainable fat loss and for your metabolic health, but also as you're getting older, losing muscle mass is one of the worst things you can do. You want to stay as strong as you possibly can, and you also want to have as much muscle mass as you can because it does increase your metabolic rate. So that's why we have calories number 1, protein number 2, all right? Now, number 3, this is probably gonna surprise you because I have 3 things right here. I actually did that on purpose just to trick you, and I wanted you to watch until this point and didn't want you skipping around. You don't need these 2, all right? So really, it's just fiber. I just want you to focus on fiber. Fiber is unbelievably important. If you've been watching my content for a while, you know I'm a huge fiber shill. I'm not getting paid by Big Fiber. Doesn't exist as far as I know. If there is a Big Fiber, I'd love to take some money. But fiber is unbelievably important, not just for fat loss, but also for overall health. Fiber is, I think, as of now, the most underrated and most overlooked component of health and fat loss. A lot of people, they'll talk about calories, they'll talk about protein, they'll talk about strength training, they'll talk about sleep, they'll talk about all this stuff, but they don't talk about fiber. And a lot of people, especially the if it fits your macros crowd, they'll be like, oh, you can just eat whatever you want as long as you're in your calories. And while that's true from a fat loss perspective, it's not true from a health perspective, and it's also not true from a sustainable fat loss perspective. If your entire diet is donuts and Twinkies and Pop-Tarts and Ho-Hos and all that shit, even though it's delicious, it's very difficult to sustain that forever, and also no one in the right mind would argue that that's a healthy diet. A lot of people who maintain a very low body fat year round, but they're not getting enough fiber, are struggling deeply with their health and a lot of times with their digestion, with their gut. And if you're not getting enough fiber on a daily basis, it's gonna pose a huge risk to your health and also to the sustainability of your fat loss over the long term. So, generally speaking, women should get at least 25 grams of fiber a day, and men should get at least 38 grams of fiber a day. I usually say 35 just because it's an easier round number, but the truth of this is, I would like to see you getting more than that. I would like to see women getting more than 25, and I would like to see men getting more than 38, especially with rises in colon cancer rising dramatically, especially in young men. For a long time, the advice for men to go get colonoscopies has been about 40 years old. It's dropping to 35. I think it's gonna drop to 30 very, very soon. We're seeing huge rises in colon cancer, and a lot of it has to do with lack of fiber and like just all of your shit sitting inside of you for long periods of time, festering in there. It's a big problem. We need to clear that shit out. It's not supposed to stay in there, and fiber can help with that. So minimums, 35 for women, 38 for men. I would like to see upwards of 30, 35 for women, and 40, 45, even 50 for men. Now, number 4. This is the one that's controversial. This is the one that whenever I post this, people are like, I would put this as number 1, okay? And this one is sleep. Now, sleep is unbelievably important for so many reasons, and one of the greatest things that we've seen lately, I think in the last 3 to 5 years in the fitness industry, is sleep becoming a huge topic of conversation. But first and foremost, I'm not gonna say, you can't logically say sleep is number 1. You can't. Because what a lot of people will say is, they'll say, well, if I don't get enough sleep, then it's impossible for me to hit my calorie deficit. It's like, okay, let's just say that. Let's say you do get enough sleep, but you're not in a calorie deficit. You're still not gonna lose fat, right? Even if you get the best sleep in the world, if you get the best sleep, but you're not in a calorie deficit, you don't lose weight. Period, end of story. If you are in a calorie deficit, but you don't get enough sleep, you lose weight, right? This is why sleep can't be number 1 here. If we're just being logical and objective about this, if we're talking purely fat loss, you can't lose weight, and fat specifically, if you're not in a calorie deficit. So even if you're getting the best sleep in the world, but you're not in a calorie deficit, you're not losing fat. This is why sleep cannot be number 1, period. Now, there is an argument to be made that sleep could be number 2. But the reason I said it's not number 2 and not number 3 is because I think Protein and maintaining muscle mass is, especially focusing more on your nutrition, I think is the thing that you have far more control over. And what I'm looking at is I'm not just looking at like you, the individual who's watching this while you're on the toilet, which by the way, if I got you when you're on the toilet, leave a comment, let me know. I'm looking at this from a general huge population perspective. And a lot of people have so many issues that prevent them from getting enough sleep. Maybe they work night shifts, maybe they're a nurse, maybe they're a firefighter, maybe they're a parent and their kids are going fucking nuts. Maybe they have an issue, maybe they have insomnia. Maybe there are so many things going on that are preventing them from getting enough sleep. Maybe they're an entrepreneur and they're fucking burning the midnight oil and they're working super hard. There are so many things that could prevent you from getting enough sleep. With protein, it's far more in your control. You eat several times a day. You have multiple opportunities throughout the day. If you're struggling to get protein in, you could take a protein powder. You can just simply changing your diet allows you to get this in much more quickly, much more easily, and it has a dramatic impact on your fat loss success. And while sleep has a massive impact on your fat loss success, for many people, it's not nearly as in your control, which is why I put it a little bit further down the list. That doesn't mean it's not in your control. And I think a lot of people, maybe you're in bed right now and it's 10, 11, 12, whatever it is, and you're just watching the video, put the fucking phone down. Go to bed, watch the rest of this tomorrow. A lot of us need to get the fuck off our phone, get in a nice cool room, get some blackout curtains, maybe put some white noise on and go the fuck to sleep. And if you do have more control over it, amazing. But if you're a parent of a young kid and they're going fucking nuts, or if you're an entrepreneur and you're like, listen, I just wanna build my business, I wanna work really hard, cool, that's fine. As long as you're in a calorie deficit and you're hitting your protein, you're gonna be good. Like, these are the two most important by far. And I'm not saying sleep isn't important, but you can very successfully lose fat in a sustainable way without getting enough sleep. You can't without getting enough calories, or without eating the right amount of calories in a calorie deficit. And even if you're getting enough sleep, but you're not getting enough protein, you're gonna lose muscle mass. It's gonna be significantly more difficult. Sleep is obviously very important. It's top 4, okay? So don't come for me in the comment section being like, I can't believe you're talking shit on sleep. I'm not. It's unbelievably important. For it to make the top 6 is fucking crazy, and top 4 is even more crazy. But I think calorie deficit, protein, and fiber are more important, and you have more control over them. Sleep is something that a lot of people don't have as much control over. And if you're on the other side and you're a 22-year-old kid, and you're like, well, I don't know how anyone couldn't have as much control over their sleep. You're a fucking 22-year-old kid. Wait until you've got kids. Wait until you get more responsibilities. Like, if you're taking naps in the middle of the day because you got so much time, like, you don't have that many responsibilities, all right? So sleep is number 4. Now, number 5. I tried to trick you with number 5 as well. Number 5, walking, right? It's just movement. That's all it is. If you can't walk for any number of reasons, maybe you have a disability, fine, don't walk. You have so many other options. I don't care if it's walking, I don't care if it's biking, I don't care if it's elliptical, I don't care if it's swimming, I don't care what it is, just move. Please, for the love of God, move. Now, I have another video all about metabolism. We'll link that in the description, and it really explains all the different aspects of metabolism so you know how your metabolism works, how you can increase it, and all of that. But I think what is most overlooked, specifically about walking and moving in general, is the movement you have throughout the day, which is known as NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That makes up a huge percentage of your metabolic rate and how many calories you burn per day. Your metabolic rate is much more dependent on the amount that you walk and move throughout the day than how much you exercise throughout the day, unless you're a high-level elite athlete. If you're a high-level elite athlete and you're in the Olympics or professional athlete, depending on your sport, I mean, I don't think baseball players are doing that much extra movement, but whether you're soccer, lacrosse, wrestling, rock climbing, water sports, whatever it is, like, there's a lot of extra movement there and you're gonna burn a lot of calories. So that might be a little bit different. But if you're an everyday person like myself, walking and movement throughout the day makes up a tremendous percentage of your metabolic rate, whereas exercising, it doesn't make up that much of a percentage of your metabolic rate. And most people overestimate how many calories they burn from exercising every day and underestimate how many calories they burn from just walking every day. And this doesn't even take into consideration the health benefits that come from walking and movement, right? This is just purely fat loss. The amount of calories you'll burn from moving throughout the day, getting those 10,000 steps, which, by the way, we have another video all about the 10,000 steps. If you need that many, if you don't need that many, link is in the description. Walking is, I think, the most important. And actually, I probably should have said this earlier, losing weight is hard. Maintaining that weight loss is even harder. And that's one of the reasons why walking is so important. When we look at people who are the most successful with losing weight, obviously calorie deficit and protein, that's like the most important for sure. But if we look at the people who are most successful at maintaining that weight loss, it's the people who walk the most. Walking is if this was different, if instead of weight loss, this was weight loss maintenance, this would be probably this would actually be number one. If this whole top 6 in order of importance was about weight loss maintenance, walking would be number 1 because you no longer need to be in a calorie deficit anymore. This is the number 1 behavior for weight loss maintenance and can dramatically help with weight loss as well over the long term. So please don't neglect your walking, don't neglect your movement, get it the fuck in. Now, number 6, this is what people I know are gonna be mad about. Between number 6 and number 4, people get very mad about this all the time, but it's just the truth. Number 6 is strength training. Now, keep in mind, just because number 6 is last on this list, there's 5 million more things I could put on this fucking list, and then all of a sudden, it would look pretty good, right? Oh, it's number 6, like that's amazing. People see that it's last on this list and they get really upset about it. They get butthurt. They're like, oh my God, strength training saved my life. Strength training is amazing and you should absolutely do it. I was a record holding powerlifter. I deadlifted 4 times my body weight. I love strength training. I do it every single week. I put it in my inner circle. My members strength train 2, 3, or 4 times a week. Fucking love it. It's really important for health and for fat loss, but it's not more important than these things on this list for this specific topic, okay? If we're talking about something else, I don't know, for increasing your confidence, if we were making a list for the top 6 most important things for increasing your confidence, strength training would be closer to the top. And these probably wouldn't be on it at all, okay? So specifically for fat loss, strength training is amazing and it plays an important role in fat loss. But there are many people who don't strength train ever, and they go from being hundreds of pounds overweight to losing it and maintaining that weight loss for the rest of their life. Do I think that it would be better if they did include strength training? Yes, of course, because there are so many other benefits to it. But the reality is you don't even need to strength train and you could lose fat very, very sustainably and healthily and live a wonderful, long, healthy, happy life. Strength training, it can increase your metabolism even though, think about this, for every pound of muscle that you gain, a lot of people say, oh my God, this is actually you're gonna shit when you hear this. Most people don't realize this. People talk about how strength training increases your metabolism, which technically it does. But they talk about when you add more muscle, then your metabolic rate increases so you can eat so much more. Well, let's talk about this. Let's first discuss how much muscle do you think you can actually build in a year, okay? Generally speaking, well, we're gonna use like the top scenario here. Let's say you're a young male, about 18, 19, 20 years old, natural, we're assuming you're not using anabolic steroids. 18, 19, 20-year-old male, their testosterone is peaked at this point in their life. They have the highest testosterone they're probably ever gonna have. And let's say they've never lifted weights before, because it makes a big difference as well if you're brand new to strength training. So 18, 19, 20 years old, super high testosterone, brand new to the gym. And let's say this 18-year-old male follows their training perfectly. They don't miss a session. They hit their calories perfectly. They hit their protein perfectly. They're sleeping appropriately. Everything is in check. And this is also a very, very high responder. Let's say this person just genetically builds muscle more easily. This 18 to 20-year-old male, if they do everything right and if they're a super genetic high responder, they can build about like 26, 27 pounds of muscle in their first year of training, okay? In their first year, 26, 27 pounds at most, and that's being a little bit generous, okay? Every year thereafter, you can cut it in half. So their second year training, maybe like 13, 14 pounds of muscle. Then the year after, maybe like 7 pounds of muscle, something like that. It gets exponentially more difficult year over year over year. If you're a woman, cut that in half from the very beginning. So for the first year of training, you're not going to 25, 26, 27 pounds. Maybe you're going like 13, 14 pounds. And this again for like 18, 19, 20-year-old woman, brand new to the gym, being absolutely perfect, consistent with training, sleep, protein, all of that, right? And again, cut it by half every year thereafter. So number one, you're not gaining 50 to 100 pounds of muscle like that, that's for sure, if ever. Number two is, and this is probably the most important question, how many calories do you think 1 pound of muscle actually burns? Most people have no idea, and I've seen these outrageous figures online. People say, yeah, you burn another 20, 50, 100 calories per pound of muscle. No, you burn about 6 to 8 calories per pound of muscle. So let's say we're being generous. Let's say you add 10 pounds of muscle in your first year of training. at 8 calories per pound, congratulations, you're burning 80 calories for all that extra muscle. It's about a fucking apple, right? It's not that much. 80 extra calories per day with that extra muscle. So it's not that much when you really boil it down and look at the science. Not to say it's not important, not to say there are other aspects as well. I will say one of the reasons why strength training and building muscle is so important has less to do with how many calories you're burning just at rest and more to do with what does having more muscle allow you to do throughout the day? Does having more muscle allow you to be more active in general? Does it allow you to move more? Does it allow you to help with more people? Does it allow you to pick more things up? Does it allow you to bring in their groceries? Does having more muscle allow you to live a more active life? And the answer is obviously yes. So having more muscle is less about how many calories you burn at rest and more about what it allows you to do during your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or your walking, your just normal daily activities. That is why strength training is so important, because it allows you to stay active for a longer period of time throughout your life. So these are the top 6. That's the reason I put them in that order. If you disagree with me, totally fine. Let me know in the comments. Just so you know, I pick 3 new people every single video to win a free month in the inner circle. Once we go over this bonus one, we're gonna go over and we're gonna pick those 3 winners from this video, or from the previous video. But either way, leave a comment. You're immediately entered to win a free month in the inner circle. And I wanna see what your top 6 most important things for fat loss are in order of importance. So let me know. And I bet we're gonna see a lot of people switching 6 and 4 to closer to the top. So the bonus one, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is something that I struggled with early on in my fat loss journey when I was trying to lose fat and really getting into the industry. And there are many things that I could choose here, but the one that I wanted to choose is the one that not only that I struggled with, but I think this is one of the biggest reasons most people struggle with not just fat loss, but their fitness and health goals overall, or even business goals, relationship goals, all of that, especially the relationship goals. We can talk about that in a second. It's having a timeline. It's having a timeline that you must lose X amount of weight by this date. What's really important for you to remember is there is no finish line with this whole fitness journey thing, okay? The finish line is when you die. That's the day that it's over. And so a lot of people, they'll come to me like, I wanna lose like 30 pounds by like June 15th. I'm like, why June 15th? And maybe they'll be like, I have a wedding or there's a vacation. It's like, okay, well, if it's May right now and you wanna lose like 30 pounds by June 15th, you should have come to me last year in May, like not fucking now. But let's just say you're just randomly choosing, I wanna lose 15 pounds by this date. Get that date out of your fucking head. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, and it's gonna cause you more stress, and I'll tell you why. The common thing that happens is this. Let's just say today is, it's May 1st, and I decide I wanna lose, I don't know, 50 pounds by August 1st, okay? We're just coming up with an example. Well, let's say that I get to about halfway through, I get to like mid-June, late June, whatever it is, and I've only lost 12 pounds, okay? Relative to what I wanted to do, losing 50 pounds in that time frame, I've only lost a fraction of what I need to. But if I get to mid-June, late June, I've only lost 12 pounds, I might be discouraged and say, what the fuck, this isn't working, and then give up altogether. When the reality is, I'd lost 12 fucking pounds. I was making amazing progress. I just convinced myself it wasn't amazing progress because I didn't live up to the arbitrary number of amount of pounds that I wanted to lose by an arbitrary date in time. And I see this happening a lot. I actually made this mistake with my strength training when I was in college. I'll give you an example. When I was in college, I thought that I should just be linearly gaining strength week over week, month over month. And I had a spreadsheet. And I was like, okay, so if I gain this amount of strength on my lifts every single week, every single month, and then by the end of the year, I should be able to lift this amount. That's not how fucking strength works, because you're not gonna gain linearly forever. If we did, then everyone would be bench pressing 1,000 pounds like it was nothing, because every time you go, you're just gonna get stronger and stronger and stronger. That's not how it works, and it's not how fat loss works. You don't just continue to lose and continue to lose and continue to lose linearly. It fluctuates up and down and up and down, and depending on how consistent you are and how sustainable your nutrition is, you're gonna lose weight a little bit slower and a little bit slower and a little bit slower. Slower doesn't mean bad. Slower is often better, especially if it allows you to be more sustainable and enjoy it longer. So please remember, there is no finish line to this. There is no end date. There's never a point where you get to a point in your fitness journey and you're like, you know what? I'm good. A lot of comedians talk about it. A lot of comedians make jokes about people who go to the gym. The comedian, maybe they're like, they want to lose like 50 pounds or whatever, and they go to the gym and they see people there who are super fit, and they're like, what are you doing here? You're done, leave. And like, this is a very common comedic joke. But the reality is, once you get into this is a lifelong thing. It will never end and it will never stop until you die. So stop putting an end date to this. Stop like trying to think, okay, I need to achieve this goal by this date, because you don't. And the more pressure you put on yourself to do that, the less likely you are to succeed, and the more it's not gonna be fun. This whole fitness thing is supposed to be at least some level of fun, and I know not everyone's gonna enjoy it and you might hate it, and that's totally fine. But we wanna make it as enjoyable as possible. We wanna remove the stress from it as much as possible. There's so much stress in life in general and overall. What's the point of creating more stress and more anxiety, especially over something that you just completely made up? And this is what I see people do. They make up a number of pounds just out of their head, and they make up a date by which they're supposed to achieve it. Stop fucking doing that. It's ruining your progress, it's ruining your mental health, and it's causing you to quit too early, okay? There's no end line, there's no end date, there's no finish line. Just keep going and try to enjoy it as best as you possibly can. And also, I said how this is actually similar to relationships. I see this with a lot of people with relationships, and I'm not a relationship expert, but figured I'd touch on it for a second. A lot of people, they're looking to get married by a certain age, or by a certain date, or whatever it is. And what that does is it puts an unbelievable amount of pressure on the relationship right from the very beginning, because you're like, okay, well, if I'm 24 now and I want to get married by 27 and have my first kid by 30, it's like, then that means that that person that you're about to start dating, you're gonna put an unnecessary amount of pressure on them to start taking it more seriously, which is one of the first things that's gonna push them away. Right? It's like, listen, we're just starting out, we're just getting to know each other. And what if you two have different ideas of what the timeline is supposed to be? Then that's gonna be like oil and water, it's not gonna mix. So whether it's a relationship or whether it's your fat loss, I think one of the best things you can do in life is stop putting a timeline on this. It's one of the reasons why I don't like it when people ask me, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I have no idea. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? I have no clue. I know what I value, I know the things that I stand by, the things that I wanna support, and I'm just gonna keep doing those over and over and over again. And generally things work out that way, as opposed to being like, I need to achieve this by this day and this time and this age and whatever it is. Know what your values are, know what you stand by. Try and be an objective thinker about it, and think less about the end goal and think about less about like achieving it and more about what you're gonna do every single day along the process. All right, so that's it. Now we're gonna go in the other room. I'm gonna announce the Inner Circle winners from the previous video and also do a little Q&A. Let's get into it. All right, so we're gonna announce the 3 people who won a free month in the Inner Circle because they commented on the most recent video. So first and foremost, huge congratulations to Cindy Putnam 550, Kendra Dalby 775, and Sarah Ford KS7TD. You all win a free month in the Inner Circle, and I put the instructions on how to claim that free month in a comment to you so you know exactly what to do. Now, if you're not in the Inner Circle yet and you didn't just win a free month, but you might want to join, we have a lot in there for you. My wife actually just put together an amazing big ass salad recipe guide. People always see her salads and they're like, how do you make them? I wanna know how to do it. You teach me how you make your dressings or what toppings you put on, all that stuff. And a lot of people, they know they want to eat more vegetables, but they just don't really taste good. You get a lot when you join the Inner Circle. You get a fuck ton. Monthly workouts, nutrition guidelines, exercise video tutorials, everything you can need. But if you want this salad guide, I would strongly recommend signing up. My wife put a ton of work into it. She did an amazing job. As soon as you join, you click the manuals tab. It's right there, right at the top. Download that manual and you're good to go. So those are the people who won the free month in the Inner Circle. Now we're gonna get into some Q&A. Okay, so first question, this is actually from an Inner Circle member, Just Me, Tara Lee. She asked, I'm new to the Inner Circle, and I'm doing great at a calorie deficit at home, which is awesome. I love that because calorie deficit is the #1 priority, like we just discussed, if fat loss is your goal. And she said, how do you count calories when you're eating out if it's not on the menu? This is a wonderful question. And there's a lot of nuance here, but here's what I'll start by saying. If you aren't eating out every day or 5 days a week, and if you're eating out once, twice a week, or even less frequently than that, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just treat it as I'm gonna go enjoy myself and enjoy the meal. I'm gonna stop eating when I'm full. I'm going to eat what I would like, and then as soon as you get back home, you get back on track. and that's really it. I think especially for the people who don't eat out very frequently, and if you do eat out frequently, I'll talk about that in a second, but if you don't eat out very frequently, and if you're tracking 85% of what you're eating and just not tracking a couple times a week or a couple times a month, it's not gonna hurt your progress at all. Most people worry so much about going out to eat, but they forget to realize that what you do before you go out to eat and what you do after you go out to eat is far more important, okay? So a lot of times what people will do is they'll go out to eat and then it'll be fine, they'll enjoy the meal, but then they feel guilty about it because they couldn't track their calories and or they know they went over their calories. So then for the next week, they blow it all off. Like, well, fuck this, I ruined all my progress. And then for the next week, they don't get back on track. And then that actually can set you back a little bit. But even then, even if it sets you back a couple weeks, it's not a big fucking deal. Keep in mind, there are people who don't work out for their entire life. They're hundreds of pounds overweight. And then after 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of living, they decide, all right, I want to make a change. If you think going out to eat one time is going to fuck up your progress, you're missing the forest for the trees. It's just completely wrong. So if you're only eating out infrequently, I just wouldn't worry about it. If you want to have an estimate, you can feel free to Google it if you would like, but it's not that big of a deal. Now, on the other hand, let's say you travel for work, or you do a lot of business, or whatever, you just go out to eat a lot. This is when it becomes more important to try and have a more educated guess. And this is when I would try and take all the ingredients, put it into Google, try and add them up, generally rounding up. Let's just say it tells you the meal was like, I don't know, 800 calories, I would round it up to 1,000, maybe 1,100 calories, just because usually there are more calories than you would expect, and they often underreport on those calories out in restaurants. Ironically, things like fast food, like McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever it is, KFC, those calories are actually very accurate. Whereas calories at a restaurant that aren't as highly regulated, a lot of times they're not as accurate as you might think, and I would generally encourage you to round up on those. So if you're eating out more frequently, I would be a little bit more strict. Try and do your best to add up. Maybe look at the menu before you go, figure out which ones would be the best option for you. But if you're not eating out very frequently, it's just not something to really worry about. What matters more is what you do before you go out to eat and after you go out to eat, not so much what you do at that one individual meal. Okay, this next question is a phenomenal question. It's from lhiggs03, and they asked, why is it so hard to do the things you share? I know what to do, but I just can't stay consistent. You're preaching, and I think this is the hardest part for the vast majority of people. And actually, this is the hardest part for everybody, because every single person in the world has something they know they should be doing, but they're not doing it. This isn't just in regard to fitness. This is in regard to relationships. This is in regard to business. This is in everything in life. Not a single person in the world has everything figured out and is doing everything they know they should be doing. So that's number one, to know that you're not alone. The other thing is, even though everything I share is generally very simple and straightforward, it's not easy to change your habits. This is something that I think is massively overlooked, that when it comes to habit change and behavioral change, it's very difficult. You have your way of doing things that you've done for a long period of time, and even if the change I'm suggesting is simple, it's not going to be easy. And this is one of the reasons I get really peeved when I make a whole video like this and then someone will comment, well, yeah, it's easier said than done. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Of course it's easier said than done. Literally everything in life, not one thing is easier done than said. It's much easier to say it than it is to actually do it. So to answer your question, number one is you just have to know it's going to be difficult. But from there, you have to figure out what actions can you take that will help hold you more accountable to get these things done. Now, one thing is doing it with a friend, having someone in your immediate social circle to help hold you accountable, whether it's hiring a coach, whether it's doing it with a friend or a family member. So having someone that's going to hold you accountable can be very helpful. If you don't have that available to you, this is one of the reasons why I have my inner circle. We have a private group just for the members, and having everybody there, a lot of people will go in every morning and give an update, a daily update. This is what I'm doing, this is what I've done, and people will either show their weigh-ins or show their measurements or their pictures or themselves going to the gym, show their gym videos, or just write a written update of, hey, this is day 52 of consistency, this is what I plan to do, and they treat it as an opportunity to, number one, hold themselves accountable and to write everything out so they can have a plan, but also knowing people are expecting them to write in there every day. No one gets annoyed by it, everyone's there and is encouraging, and it's it's a great way to hold yourself accountable. So I would strongly encourage that. If you don't have a friend or a family member, or you don't have the ability to hire a coach because they're very expensive, would love to have you in the inner circle. The link is in the description. If you don't want to join the inner circle, that's fine. You can find someone else in your area, or someone that could hold you accountable close to you. The other thing, and this is, I think, another very overlooked aspect, a lot of people try and change everything at once. They're like, okay, well, I'm gonna start walking, I'm gonna start tracking my calories, I'm gonna start tracking my protein, start tracking my fiber, I'm gonna start lifting a couple times a week, I'm gonna get my sleep in check. It's like, hold on. That's a lot of fucking changes to make. And there are some people who can go cold turkey and change everything about their life. They're very few and far between. And I think most people would like to think that they're that person, but in reality, they're not that person. There is a very small percentage of people that can do that. And the reality is the people that can do that, they can usually only do it in one area of their life. They can't do it in every area. They can't do it with fitness and with relationships and with business. It's like you just might see them doing it in one area, but they can't do it in other areas, which is really important to remember, especially when you're watching people on social media. This is why I made this whole video of, in order of importance, these are the most important things that you need to do. So number one, I would try and get your calories in check. If that's a little bit too daunting for you, I would just start with walking, or just start with protein, or just start with fiber, or just start with sleep. Pick one thing to focus on, just one, and do that for at least 30 days. If you can't or aren't able to do it for at least 30 days, you need to have a self-audit in which you can say, all right, is this a me issue where I'm just not prioritizing it enough and I need to get my shit in check? Or was this specific thing a little bit too much for me? And this is why, even though calorie deficit is the number one most important for weight loss, maybe it's a little bit too daunting at the beginning. Maybe go to number 5. Go to walking, start with that, get on a schedule and a routine with that, and then maybe go from there to fiber. Maybe just instead of trying to think, okay, I need to hit this much protein, or I can only have this many calories, try and get the right amount of fiber in every day, right? One thing at a time for at least 30 days. And from there, it's not gonna happen in 30 days, it's not gonna happen in 60, it's not gonna happen in 90, but by the end of 6 months or a year, you could have gotten like 4 out of the 6 most important things, in which case you're gonna be well on your way. So stop having the timeline, stop having the finish date, and also one thing at a time. Add one habit. It's very difficult to change everything at once. It's not impossible, but it's unbelievably difficult, and most people fail because they try to do that. One thing at a time, and also find a way to hold yourself accountable, all right? I hope this was helpful. If it was, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Also, join my email list just in case I get hacked, or if you wanna get special offers and discounts for the Inner Circle, sign up for my email list. The link is in the description. Have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon.